Thanks, Jesse.
Are we doing budget items?
Started a meeting.
No, you do it all the time.
Later tonight.
All right, welcome. This is a special work meeting of the town board to discuss the water overlay and start the meeting with the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. And just to clear up, since this is a work meeting, I didn't make a privilege of the floor opportunity tonight. We just wanted to have some time to begin the board discussion of the zoning law. And we had at the last meeting discussed a little bit the water overlay. And so we wanted to discuss the details of that tonight. The water overlay, I think, as everybody knows, is composed of three elements: the flood zones established by FEMA, wetlands, and wetlands are regulated by the DEC and or the Army Corps, and then the additional component are the riparian buffers. These are areas protected along streams to protect the waterways. So I will open the discussion and ask if anybody wants to start off. There are a couple of decisions to be made. The overlay can be the overlay district can be these three components, or they could be separated. So that's one thing we'll have to just consider how we'd like to do that. And then I think another thing is discussing how we want, what we think is appropriate for buffer width from the stream bank. So,
Mark, I mean, I wouldn't recommend adding the wetland map to this. The zoning commission decided to stick with the buffer area and floodplain, and the reason that they did that is because in relationship to our floodplain law and building code, buildings can happen within the floodplain. So that's the reason we discussed this last time. That's the reason I decided to keep that within section 5.3, but I think it would be confusing to add the wetlands to that map, since that's basically an independent situation. And we're not proposing, to my knowledge, town regulation regarding wetlands.
Yeah, I thought this map was for people to look at and go, oh, you know, there's going to be rules on this. I know that, you know, this is the one with all of them, I guess, right? And then to go on to, you know, one of the other two. But yeah, the wetlands, there are a lot of wetlands there to cover things up, don't they?
So is the proposal to just have a riparian buffer
Well, the first proposal is section 5.3A. Which is the language of section 5.3A. I'm proposing to leave that as is. Which says within a water resources and flooding overlay district,
Oh, wait, the page is that, oh, right.
page 65.
Okay,
Last week I had raised I was the one who raised the question of why the flooding overlay district was included. We had a discussion about it. I realized that continued to be a good idea, so I think we should just leave it.
Mhm.
But that has nothing to do with the length of the buffers or anything. That's just
Okay.
how the law is going to read.
Proposed to go in within the stormwater.
Well,
runoff law.
you know, I mean, in this section, in section 5.3. I'll have to look at it again, but this is almost the only place where the flood zone appears, so it doesn't appear in relationship to riparian buffers vis-a-vis the flood zone. The riparian buffers are vis-a-vis the streams, not the flood zone per se, right?
Correct.
So, but the reason that they included it in this is because, as we discussed last time, there are provisions within our flood law
Yeah,
so that you could build within the floodplain law zone. And that also is permitted in relationship to building permits. So that's my understanding of why they put that,
Yeah.
why they included that there.
I mean, it just seems to me that water resource overlays are more of a environmental and stormwater runoff.
Yeah.
And zoning is density and use. And we could say, well, it's use of. I don't know.
But this is establishing town regulations over a district in the town, so it's zoning. That's why it's a zoning.
But it's also-
I misunderstood your question,
Okay.
so I didn't
Yeah.
answer that part. Yeah,
I think if I understand correctly,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the DEC's documentation or, things on the internet over riparian buffers suggest that they be included in our stormwater runoff rules, not that, I don't read that it's recommended that it be placed in zoning. It just seems to me that it's
do you have that information?
right here.
So what does it say? That I don't understand that.
I've been reading several of the DEC's postings online, and they're talking about riparian buffers. And
Yeah,
so,
it's recommended by the DEC. Riparian buffers are recommended by the
correct,
DEC.
and they're recommended that they be included in stormwater runoff. I just don't see that belongs in.
You could incorporate stormwater runoff provisions into,
Which is what we've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right,
so, yeah.
in this. Well, anyway, last meeting, somebody suggested we ask Gene Foley maybe to come and go over things with us, which, in my readings over the last week over things, I think it would be an excellent idea.
What are the questions?
Just to have a review what we've got written about the widths and things I'm reading about riparian buffers, about difference. We've been talking about, how wide they should be in relation to, slopes of the land and what the uses are, and is it open land, is it forested? It just seems to me that there's significant differences in what the widths of the riparian buffer should be if you're on flat land along 79, or if you've got the hillside down along Speed Hill Road that's in excess of, that's very steep.
Well, the way that the zoning commission delineated riparian buffers, Cal, The riparian buffer doesn't start until the stop of the steep grade. So then the riparian buffer starts at the top of the steep grade because what's being protected is the runoff area, is the
Correct.
permeability. So that if you'll look at, for example, if you'll look at the maps on page 68, you can see how that works. So they did in fact take into consideration those variations in
Mhm.
slope degree.
I guess I was confused from reading it, if it was the slope of this, the bank of the stream or the land coming to it. And to me, that's two very different, to my mind, that's two very different issues.
That's the land coming to it.
Yeah,
It's the land lateral, horizontal, perpendicular.
yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, okay. But we were talking about, narrowing this up, and I don't know, it seems that there's quite a few different variables to. If we were gonna do the inner buffer and outer buffer area, just the last email. I found it,
I would like to simplify it from that. That's just
yeah,
something
because I just found it confusing.
I would like to do.
And that's what I actually proposed in that
Right.
email.
And I actually would like to have an outer buffer area,
You would like to have what?
the outer buffer area. I don't want to get rid of the outer buffer area altogether. I just say there's a 50-foot inner buffer area. I could see making it a 25-foot outer buffer area. But the outer buffer area is supposed to be absorbing, absorbing the rainfall, having vegetation to protect the inner buffer area, which protects the stream.
But couldn't you
So-
just have one buffer area that does all those things?
Well, the inner buffer area had more restrictions than the outer buffer area on trees to take out, how much canopy you're supposed to have, things like that, right? So
And
so you could have, so if you just say we're going to have 75 feet of the inner buffer area, then you're putting more restrictions on that 25 feet out. Instead of saying 50 feet. Yeah, I mean, we have 50 feet, and another 50 feet, but 50 feet, and another 25 feet. So,
I mean, I've been looking also this week again at all the DEC recommendations and regulations. And they really vary from 200 feet to 50 feet. Without any clear delineation, one way or the other.
Yeah,
And the area laws pertaining to it in different towns similarly vary, with 50 feet seeming to be a constant, one of the constants in local town laws. So I find myself comfortable with one buffer area of 50 feet instead of having two different buffer areas. I mean, you can conceivably, last meeting I talked about the possibility of maybe shortening the two buffer areas, but I just think it would be a lot easier to administer.
well, it's a lot-
It would be simpler for people to understand. And that 50, or if one would have to negotiate to 75, would be reasonable. In terms of the hamlets, especially Slaterville, West Slaterville, and Brooktondale, I mean, I personally think that more than 50 feet begins to be challenging for the residents,
Well, I think,
even though there are grandfathered situations.
well, they're grandfathered in, but they can still build on that. I mean, they'd have to go, they can still say, I want to build a garage, this is 25% of the property, right? I mean, there are still things they're allowed to do. They would just have to make sure about not increasing a certain amount of impermeability on the property, and I think that so I'm a big one for impermeable surfaces when you get around water and beyond the water, so you don't have the sheeting off of things, and that's actually, I mentioned to a couple people, this has been a concern of mine with the idea that, well, if there's already a parking lot there, they could pave the parking lot. I don't see anything that says we can't, you know, even if you're in a buffer zone, if there's already a parking lot there, well, it's grandfathered in, can they pave it? I don't see any clarity on that.
We could provide that clarity.
That would be good. Or you know, or a long gravel driveway or a road. I mean, that a lot of the non-point source pollution comes off of parking lots and
Sure.
roads and roofs. And so that is something I am concerned about. Yeah, I was thinking about it, you know, and talking to people in the hamlet, 'cause I was walking around my house. And talk to people who want to put an addition on their garage or, you know, a deck, things like this. So so rereading this, I was looking for, well, could they do that? And they can. There's a way to you know, make a plan and get it approved. They can't cover the whole area, but they can still cover a percentage of it, even though that's not grandfathered in. So I don't think the 50-foot or 75-foot would be that difficult. The village of Trumansburg has an inner and outer of 50 and 50. So.
I mean, I think one of the differences with Trumansburg to us is
Well, they're a village.
their village,
Their
but
village.
also we're heavily domesticated along water routes in the town, you know,
Mhm.
really heavily domesticated. Which is how the town developed, we understand. I mean, it was
Mhm.
built for mill work. So
Right,
everything was built literally right on the creek.
Mhm.
right.
I mean, I think that almost really distinguishes us from almost any other town in the county.
Hmm.
I totally
Forest
agree.
home, maybe.
Forest Home probably, yeah.
Um,
I mean, I think I totally understand your
Mhm.
point about permeability, and I'd be interested, we could easily add some language. Counter asphalt or something like that in terms of the buffer zone.
mhm.
But if we had one inner buffer zone as opposed to two. Parking lots wouldn't be allowed anyway.
Right.
New parking lots. It doesn't talk about an existing parking lot that gets paved over. It doesn't talk about the
Well, if that
So-
were of a concern, we could add that language quite easily. You know, it could make some sense. I understand
Yeah.
your point.
Okay. No, I think that's fixable. I just,
No, I mean, I think that there are a couple of other things involved, and one of them is administration.
mhm.
And what I would like to see us aim to do where it's reasonable. Simplify areas where it's reasonable, which will. Minimize administration.
Sure.
Having just one in a buffer area as opposed to two. Will minimize the administration of that second buffer area, which can be really dicey. So that's just my thinking.
Okay.
Keeping it simple is good.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I misunderstood the focus of this, so I had just general remarks. I admire what you're doing, but I'm gonna. Come back.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Sorry.
No, I think it's great. It's really,
Okay,
Come back,
I
Chad.
do. miss it.
understood. Thanks, Chad.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Good night. Yeah. Um, So,
I mean, back to Tim, 50 feet, I mean. If this DEC thing on riparian buffers, the three zone concept, if you take the minimums of each of the three zones, it comes out to 50 feet.
oh, yeah,
But then they say later on that the minimum should be at least 100 feet. So.
Yeah.
But zone 1 is 15 feet, zone 2 is 20 feet, zone 3 is 15 feet, and that adds up to 50.
But then, I thought. This thing had,
Hey, Mark, excuse me.
yeah, go ahead.
Bill Padoka would like to add thoughts.
Sure, okay.
Based on the zoning commission's discussion of this, I would assume.
I guess, so, yeah,
Yeah, I'll keep this brief. I really want to be here only to answer questions and things that have come out, you know, if it is a clarification of what the zoning commission either intended or what the stuff is. I have some thoughts that I wanted to give in privilege of the floor that I'll save for the town board meeting when you have privilege of the floor. But I will point out in regards to what was just stated, it is true if you add up the minimums or add up the maximums of what the DEC has in their zones, you get a 50 range to 100 and something range. But right below that is the sentence that says, I don't know where I wrote that down, but that 100 feet is what the DEC considers the minimum amount required to maintain water quality. So I think
Right.
when they give ranges, it's not that, oh, they can be, you know, their really figure is you're going to have some of them larger, some of them smaller, and the sum should be at least 100 is what they say at a
Right.
minimum. That's just a clarification of what the DEC had to say. I will
Okay.
basically be quiet. If you guys have a question for me about intent or something, then I will chime in, but otherwise I'll be quiet.
okay, thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
So the DC zones, I'll just, which Cal mentioned, which I mentioned last week. So zone 1 recommendation is at least 15 feet. Zone 2, 20 to 60 feet. Zone 3, 15 to 60 feet. And I guess my thinking was zone 1 and zone 2 combined at 50 feet. And that's what I was thinking, just in relationship. Or we could consider having different zones. I mean, I'm worried about.
How do the zones fit in with the buffer areas?
Oh, these are the buffer.
Within it.
Buffer area 1 would, these are what they call buffer areas.
So these are just designs
Design
within the
recommendations,
buffer area.
design recommendations.
Huh.
I mean, we also talked last week about potentially having 2 overlay zones. One within the hamlets
Mhm.
and one within the ag district. With a larger area,
Right, it would
Just the
be,
ag district or just the non-hamlets, or the non-hamlets?
well, non-hamlets, yeah,
Non-hamlets.
which is almost everything, non-hamlets and commercial.
Okay.
It's primarily the ag districts.
right,
I mean, the zoning commission recommended blanket everything,
mhm,
which I mean, I did take to heart. I personally took to heart public comment. Especially from Sladeville and Brookendale. Regarding the impact of that.
mhm. Yeah, I think the buffer could be smaller in the hamlets. Could be a smaller width. Is that what you're saying?
That's
Yeah.
what I've been thinking.
Mhm.
And I'm very pro the buffers. I mean, don't misunderstand. I'm just trying to be practical in relationship to our situation.
I think I want that page.
This one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks. That's what. I'm- Yeah.
and yet isn't there more runoff within hamlets? I would think you're trying to control surface water runoff and anything, because there's more.
There's more impermeable surface, there's more people, there's more roads, there's.
Yeah. Driveways. House roofs, building roofs.
But in the hamlets, the lots are smaller. They're tight to the stream. That's the way I was thinking of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh,
So,
the smaller lots allow for much less permeability, much less density and permeability.
Yeah. So you have more runoff, so if anything, it should be farther back from stream so that it's got time to percolate into the soils.
But the reality is the houses weren't built that way.
I know, no,
They should be, yeah.
and they're gonna be grandfathered anyway, so it's whatever's going forward.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the proposal you put forward, Tim, which was to, yeah. I think the decision we have to make is on the widths.
And whether we have one or two buffers,
And what?
whether we have one or two buffers.
Buffers, so so when the overlay covers more than 75% of the parcel,
Mhm.
which would be a situation in a hamlet, right? It says for more than 75% of any parcel is covered by the water resources and flooding overlay. It shall be allowed, I skipped a little bit, shall be allowed on up to 25% of that land upon abbreviated site plan approval by review board
Mhm.
and Tompkins County Division of Environmental Health Requirements for water and septic. So it's still, as I said, they can still put in a deck, they could still put in a garage, they couldn't put in a row townhouses right on the creek, right, and rent them out for, but, we're looking at, moving forward, I guess, and the development that might happen in the hamlets moving forward. Well, what about having two buffers in the hamlets? And I don't know, I mean, it doesn't make sense either.
Can somebody have the minimum lot size, the requirements for the health department for well and septic? And if they're near the creek,
Well,
still have a.
It's gotta be 1 acre and then, but
Well, it
But by the
doesn't-
health
it doesn't- it
department.
doesn't have
I
to.
know, but then you can get, you have to go to the health department and get an okay for the septics
Right.
and things like that. Yeah, if you've got less than 1 acre.
Yeah, but I mean, can somebody fit all that in? Could somebody fit in 100-foot setback from the creek? Say they owned an acre on the creek.
Mhm.
Could they have 100? Could they have a 90-foot setback? Get in a well and septic and still have room to put a house?
How big a house?
Well,
Yeah,
But,
Cal,
yeah,
lot size for septic well has to have a 200-foot circle. We went through this when we subdivided off the boys. So there has to be a 200-foot circle for septic well.
There has to be some distance between them,
Yes,
yeah.
so that's 3/4 of an acre.
yes.
So that's,
So that's why it's 1 acre minimum, so you can have that 200-foot circle. Separate your septic and well. If that helps your discussion.
I mean, the county provides a provision to appeal that in certain cases. So the reason that the zoning commission left that flexible in terms of minimal acreage was an acknowledgement of that appeal potential. So
Yeah,
Mhm.
conceivably, somebody could
Yeah.
appeal that circle
Yeah.
successfully. That's
right.
just the way the laws are.
And they have in the hamlet.
And they haven't happened.
Mhm.
But all new construction has to have that. Well, we were told with subdivision and stuff. because we had 160 feet and they wouldn't allow us to divide it that way, we had to make it 200 feet.
Hmm.
Even though that the septic would have been in the front and the well would have been in the back, there was 350 feet of length. But they demanded the full width because it was a new lot.
Yeah, so that's an acre.
Yes.
So and then-
Is that with, is that with the drainage field? Is that the idea?
I don't
Or it
know.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We had 1.7 acres. Set, but it was lengthways.
Right.
But it wasn't wide enough.
Right.
And they were, you cannot do this unless you make it wide enough.
Interesting.
And it came out to be 2.1 acres. But that's the way they have their rules set up.
Right.
Well, we were. Okay, but I know that in the hamlet or, I guess it's existing buildings, but they have the raised septics, which
Yeah,
which are different,
I think raised septics do have different variables, but I'm not. a
Yes, but they
specialist.
won't allow that
They won't.
smaller in the new construction.
The new construction.
Only
The old,
the old stuff, the grandfather didn't
Yeah.
build it, however, they
Yeah,
can
yeah.
meet the codes.
yeah,
but you need an acre and a half to have a 100-foot setback from the creek and a 200-foot circle, assuming that your 200 feet couldn't go into the riparian. See what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Well,
so, yeah, I mean. The idea of the buffer area, right, is to have the vegetation. Soil, right, erosion protection. That's the inner buffer area. And the outer buffer area is to protect the inner buffer area. So,
I mean, really, when you get a gully washer of a storm, 100 feet is probably a good idea. 50 feet isn't really very much.
no, it's about the length of my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Cal, are you arguing for 100 feet?
Well, 90 feet.
He's discussing.
No, I just try to,
Yeah.
I just try to kick it around. If somebody's got just, a small lot next to a creek and, they gotta stay back. And if it's reasonably, not terribly steep, but water quality is important. I haven't talked to a single person that doesn't feel water quality is important.
I mean, I'm all for bigger buffers. I'm just trying to be.
Yeah, and I too, but I just try to, make sure also that it's workable.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, I think it makes sense to have like 100-foot buffer in the ag rural zone. Where there's more elbow room. And a 50-foot. Or, something like that.
How about a 50-foot inner and
In the
25 outer? I mean,
I'm trying to
Yeah.
get simple.
I'm
That's what I'm trying to do.
trying to protect.
No, but if you
The water
have,
there.
well, then have a 75% inner. I mean, in other words, I'm trying to get away from this inner and outer delineation,
Mhm.
which is administratively more complex if we can achieve the same thing otherwise.
Mhm.
So if you were to
Mhm.
have a 50%, you were to want, let's say hypothetically, you're to want a 50%. 50-foot inner and a 25% outer, let's
You
just
mean-
have,
Uh-huh,
25 foot,
Yeah.
let's just have then a 75-foot buffer.
What
I could go
about,
with that.
or what about just riparian buffers within the hamlets?
And
Don't need them in the ag districts.
In the ag rural.
Yeah.
I didn't hear you, Colin, I'm sorry.
If we just had the riparian buffers within the hamlets.
in the hamlets and none in the rest of the town.
And why wouldn't we have a riparian buffer in the rest of the town?
I'm just throwing it up as a suggestion.
Yeah. And
But
for a reason, or, I mean, I don't,
May I
the
participate in
rationale.
that?
No, we really need to have our discussion.
because we're worrying, as I understand it, I think the riparian buffer is a good idea, and we, as a rural landowner farmer, we abide by at least 100+ feet.
So 100 feet,
Easily.
okay? So that's your proposal?
You know, you're
but-
saying it's not.
No,
needed
I'm just
because
saying that
already
it's
done.
just, whatever you do as a good steward of the land,
Yeah,
rather than as a regulatory fiat. I think the problem is mainly in the hamlet zones where you've got the runoff.
Well, you're assuming that there will be no development in the agricultural zone.
And an example is, let's take and rewind 30 years to Boyceville Road, when there was still an open field where there's now Boyceville cottages.
Mhm.
I mean, sometimes for me, I need kind of concrete examples of what I've seen happen in the town. Just the history and, okay, that used to be an open field. If this was in place, how would that have affected that situation?
But-
Well, it's nowhere near any creeks, right?
But if it were, would you not want a buffer?
Yes, I would.
So that would be the reason to have a buffer everywhere,
Yeah,
because what
yeah.
Or
this
that's
zoning law
within,
is.
or it's within your site plan review, because that would be subject to site plan review.
Site plan review has no teeth unless it's within the zoning law, it would just be recommended.
We wanna regulate by district, this is how to do it.
I mean, if you look at, driving down Brooktondale Road towards the hamlet from 79, you can look at the development there, and it is right near the creek
Where?
on Brooktondale Road. Driving down from 79 towards the hamlet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of development on that.
Mhm.
In the fields that run right next to 6 Mile Creek.
I mean, they're just past Middle Road where
Yeah,
the extreme sport shop is.
yeah.
Yeah, because that was all fill. Well,
That, yeah, that's,
as I remember, because that used to be a wetland swamp.
and it may be again.
Yeah.
I mean, that creek has moved over the years.
Yeah.
That we know.
So,
I would like to suggest that we just try to make a little bit of progress here. So one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to make a proposal that we have one riparian buffer.
okay,
So I make that proposal as a motion.
I'll second that. So.
And that would be
what
to make it easier, this would be an inner, this would go along with the inner
Inner.
guidelines.
Yes,
Well, just to follow up on that,
Excuse me.
in the zoning law presented to us by the zoning commission, there's an inner and an outer.
yeah,
We can make it whatever we want,
of course.
one or the other, or a combination of those, or something completely different.
Yeah.
So,
That's right.
okay,
Will we say what that riparian buffer will be?
Sure.
I mean.
For
again,
now, I thought it would be just easy if we could start.
Okay,
with
I mean, again, example from my experience, new riparian buffer along 6 Mile Creek on the backside of the sheep pasture on Lounsbury Road.
yeah,
Planted trees
saw that.
by
I saw it the other day. Yeah.
soil and water, mowed once a year and maintained. And I've signed a contract with soil and water to do certain things. Are we going to require within the zoning that there will be a riparian buffer of 100 feet, and that it will be A, B, C, D, or, you know, I mean, we need, okay, it's nice to say it's gonna be, but what exactly will that riparian buffer be, and how will it be maintained?
I agree.
Yeah, this mostly talks about non-development of the inner buffer area, not active management of, say, putting native vegetation and things like this.
So first, in respecting Tim's motion,
Yeah.
I will, and we can go there next or a little, but are we okay with one? Whatever we decide is going to be in the end of deciding at this point that we're going to have one buffer. It doesn't have to be the same width throughout the town, but it'll be.
That would be a vote. We would take a vote.
Are you ready for a vote?
Yeah.
Or- yep, unless
That's the
there's-
only way we're gonna get through this.
Right.
Take it seriously.
but unless there's more discussion, because I know Kate
Right.
might have other thoughts. So do you-
I'm okay with the one buffer idea.
okay,
I mean, okay,
so
I've already said my
okay,
concerns, so
Okay.
let,
And how wide will it be?
That's
Or it's gonna be different, or we're just,
That's the next
that's
consideration.
the next,
we're taking baby steps.
yep,
Okay,
that's fine.
so I'll take a vote. All in favor?
Right.
Aye. Opposed? Great, thanks. And then, a motion,
So how wide it will be?
yeah, we can either go to how wide it'll be, and you want to work on that one? We've just discussed it a lot already.
what do we want to talk about? Sorry.
The width
The width of the one,
of the buffer.
I think it should be one thing in the hamlets and one thing in the rest of the town. I
Okay,
think that
so-
makes sense.
I would be comfortable with that.
So, okay, I think I got that, and
That convinced me that that would be a good idea.
do you want to put a number on that for discussion? I'm gonna make a motion that you just offered.
Okay. Number on it?
Yeah, for
the width of the,
you
Oh,
said
yeah.
it should be one
Oh,
width in the hamlets and one width in the ragged rural district.
75 in the hamlets and 100 in the rest of the town.
Okay, motion by Kate. Hamlets. Gosh, okay. Do you have a second?
I'd be more comfortable with 5,100.
But we can,
Wait,
do you want to second Kate's motion or to discuss it or?
yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, so seconded by Tim.
There could always be a friendly amendment.
Yeah. Okay, open discussion. Go ahead.
No, I'm just concerned that 75 in certain hamlet areas is gonna be too tight.
Well, 50 is too tight in certain hamlet areas. We've got houses within that 50 feet. You know, I mean.
Yeah, I'm just trying to,
mhm.
yeah, I hear you.
I don't think 75 feet is all that. Especially with the fact that you can still build within that area. As I said, you know,
If we do the language of the inner buffer area. If we have one buffer in the buffer, and if we were to stick with the inner buffer language recommended by the zoning commission. What you can do within that inner buffer area is extremely limited.
I'm concerned that the hamlets already have a lot of impervious structure and a lot of runoff and a lot of pollutants into the water. And I agree with Cal when he's, saying that that's because of the density there. You still need, you need some guidance on, as I said, paving, building and things like that. 50 feet is not that far from the creek.
I would like to
Adding
see,
another 25 feet is a compromise on my,
I'd like to see something either from Gene Foley or John Nagley, that a little more boots on the ground. Here's where potential development might be. Here's what a practical riparian buffer setback would be, considering what you've been dealt. I mean, there was suggestions that came up through, what we do, reading on the internet and other things, but I'm sometimes skeptical that there's no substitute for boots on the ground by a credentialed professional. And I think we have Gene Foley at DEC or John Nagley with Soil and Water. And yeah, it's going to be an averaging, you can't have 13 different widths for different parts.
Yeah. I think we have quite a lot of information to work with. We can always tweak this.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd like to kind of,
you and Tim have followed up along with the zoning commission and, a lot more than anybody else sitting here, so. Maybe you feel. But I that they're two excellent.
What I would recommend that we would do, so that we can just start getting some ducks in a row, is come to an agreement on distance. We can always ask for input. This isn't set in stone. We haven't voted on anything. This is still a draft. We can always then ask for opinions from, if you would like, DEC or Soil and Water about these recommendations. Then there's something at least for them to base an opinion on.
Yeah, I would like to say that, we talk about protecting the water source and we're in a big watershed and feel very strongly about this. I did take a class in hydrology, including transfer, it was a long time ago, but I think that that's really weighing on me with the idea that, on this, that we're like, oh, well, everybody's close to the creek, so it should be, then things there still needs to be guidance in there, especially because everybody's so close to the creek. And 75 feet is not that far from the creek. And it's not as though it completely negates, you can't do anything, right? You could still add to your garage, you could still build a deck, you could still do a number of things, but you do it with some guidance, with an awareness of the buffer area. No.
And waivers can be granted, right?
Waivers can be granted.
And
Yeah.
waivers can be
Yes.
granted.
So like the house that even 50 feet, on the back street,
Yeah,
it's the whole house is in the 50 feet, right?
yeah.
Yes, waivers definitely have to be granted. So.
Frank Lloyd writes,
Well, that-
waterfall could be built in Brookton.
It would
With a
be,
waiver.
it would be a big waiver for that, yeah.
One of the things that I'm just trying to keep in mind is how many waivers could be potentially requested, what the volume of that can be, what the administrative burden of that can be on the town. I'm just trying to balance these different considerations.
I did go
Yeah.
down from 100 to 75.
I know you did.
Okay.
But I started at 35.
I know.
The other, this conversation, one of the other things
Mhm.
that it's clear that we could easily do aside from zoning, and I think it would make an awful lot of sense. We've done a lot of work on creek stabilization, but I think we could do an awful lot more work on education. just general and general education program.
Sure.
on Creek sustainability and aside from zoning,
Mhm.
aside from
Right.
zoning.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm looking at what other towns around do, so.
So that's what Bill sent, right?
Yeah, it was
Mhm.
this,
Yeah, that's why I looked up.
this one.
Mhm.
And I still think our biggest water overlay challenge is the ditches along all the roads, but that's just being,
I agree with you,
you know,
but that's a different,
yeah, I've told you
we can make a ditch district if you want.
next week.
Now you're talking yourself towards an awful lot of regulation.
I know, I gotta be careful.
So, yeah, so that's why I like the 50
Mhm.
foot.
I don't think 50 foot's big enough.
50 foot in the hamlet centers.
Village of Shermansburg has 100 feet, an inner and outer. And that's the village.
It's not on here, right?
No, it's not. I looked it up
Okay.
because I was curious what they did. I was trying to think of a place that had major creeks going through it with houses built close together.
Mhm.
That's why I looked there.
Theirs is 100.
Mhm. It surprised me it was so big.
How far is your house from the creek?
Hmm?
How far is your house from the creek?
My house? I have not measured it.
But you're just,
It's more than 50, probably.
yeah, it's more than
with-
50, sure.
Yeah.
The roads,
Yeah,
the road right away is 50 feet.
yeah. It's like 100, I don't know.
Oh,
If I had to guess,
it's more than 100.
What's that?
It's more than 100. So from the creek bank to
My house.
the road is 50,
Okay, yeah,
roughly 50.
yeah. Yeah, I would say about.
I mean, that's a
Yeah.
good
And then
way
the
to
creek
visualize
moves.
it. So
The creek's been moving south. So,
on Brookendale Road,
mhm,
on the back street,
mhm.
probably every structure on the creek side is within 50 feet. of
Oh,
it.
yeah. Yeah, that's why I walked around the loop and walked down. To the down Brookendale Road. Mhm. And,
Okay,
So then just visualizing it. If you take,
gonna talk
and
to a bunch of.
that's
neighbors.
probably one of the tightest areas
Mhm.
for the town. If you visualize it, you've got that 50. Then you've got the road. Right,
Mhm.
so
And you got two houses in between,
then
in
that's
between the road and the
already
creek on that
another,
side.
the road is what, 15 feet?
It's bigger than that.
So that's almost 100 right there. I mean,
Yeah.
that buffer's pretty big. So I'm just trying to visualize what a 50-foot buffer would literally look like.
Well,
If it
75 feet
were-
is
if
not
it
that
were
far. I mean, it's really not
strict.
that. Big.
okay, so
Do we have to say things like, or if it has to be less for various reasons, mitigation measures?
Well, they would come to the,
Yeah,
I mean, there
In a
aren't that
way.
many,
yeah, just
but
so
I mean,
it's
we're
not.
talking about,
But we have to decide with one buffer, then we're gonna have to decide
Mhm.
what the regulations are for that buffer.
right,
Because the zoning commission has helped us, their recommendation to ease that burden was to have two different areas with two different regulations.
which is why I wanted to, but
Well, no,
I compromised
we have
on
the
to one,
shorter
we have one now,
that shouldn't be
Okay.
difficult to do.
I don't think so. So,
Yeah, you're right on that. Right.
so should we vote on this?
Yeah.
Motion?
Well, yes, it's 75.
So it's
75
hybrid,
hamlets,
yeah,
100.
we haven't
Closer.
modified it. Are we comfortable voting are we ready to vote on
Let's
this?
vote on it, sure.
Okay. So, all in favor, say aye.
Just from,
Say it again.
Okay,
say the resolution again, just.
so its motion is 75 foot wide buffers in the hamlets, 100 foot in the rest of Caroline. Any further discussion? Ready to vote?
No, I just wanted to be fair.
Okay,
I
so,
just, right,
okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
okay.
Opposed?
He's
That's
gonna
four,
give it
okay.
okay, so not.
So it's unanimous.
All right.
The other particular is perennial and intermittent streams.
Yes.
Mm,
So
yeah, and that's just, that was decided by the county, is that correct? Like which is perennial, and which is intermittent?
so
Who decides that?
Yeah,
Okay.
the county had a back.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And that's the map you said earlier.
are we gonna?
Excuse me, Mark, Bill Padoka has his hand up again.
Okay,
Too exciting.
Bill, go ahead.
Okay, no, just to clarify on that, because the zoning commission did consider which data set to use for intermittent streams. The county data set uses a finer, scale and actually had more intermittent streams than the USGS set that we've based the rest of the data on. And so in the end, we went with the USGS, whatever series, 2021, whatever. So it actually is not the county data set. So it has fewer intermittent streams than the county will show, and the ones it does show are often shorter than what the county shows.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. So I guess I will offer a motion to include both perennial and intermittent streams. And we can discuss it, I guess, or yeah. Do I have a second?
Oh, I see. Oh, I'll second it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so currently the intermittent streams, the way it was, before we started, only had a 50-foot buffer area.
Right. So my motion was even more basic, like, are we gonna have buffers around both perennial and intermittent streams?
Yes. Yeah. But
That's.
why,
So it's not,
yeah,
that's what I'm proposing,
Right.
so,
Sure.
so discussion, and
why was the intermittent stream down to 50 instead of 100 in the original plan? Why did it just have the inner and not the outer?
My understanding is because of the intermittent status
of course, yeah.
and
That it
that
wasn't,
it has much less impact.
right, so you don't have everything
You
flowing
don't
down
have everything
as
flowing
much.
down all the time. Also, there's more places for it to go.
You-
In
Okay,
addition to the fact that it would be a huge, if you were to use 100-foot buffers on intermittent streams everywhere, that would be a huge amount of land in the town.
Yes.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. So should we make it 50 for the intermittent? I mean, I'm trying to understand the. Instead of 100,
That was my thinking,
that would make sense.
That would be my thinking.
Okay,
okay. Cal?
And I mean, I'm just looking at what I know. And, you know, there's the culvert pipe that goes across the road that on our place that really is just ditch water runoff.
Right. I don't,
And-
that's not even a stream, is it?
No,
No, but it's here it's on this map as an intermittent stream.
Oh, it is?
Well, it's not gonna be, I mean, it's the thing, it's not gonna be really.
And,
I've never
and,
seen the.
as it
creek.
gets farther down, I would say it's a perennial stream. So I just kind of, you know, where's this point where, to me, we go from ditch water to intermittent stream to perennial stream, because as it keeps moving downhill towards Level Green Road, you know, after a while, it's a perennial stream and
Oh, wow.
deserves, but
I
you know,
didn't
right,
realize that.
right there by
Yeah.
Jesse's house, you know, that's just ditch, you know, it goes through
The headwaters.
well, yes, it is. I
That's
mean,
pretty
that's
cool.
where it all starts,
Yeah.
but, you know, I
Where's
just.
it?
Starts there, then it goes right down there to Level Green.
Okay. And then where's it go? Is that the
It
one that
it
goes?
goes out across to 79.
Nine and then
Okay,
to the west branch of Wheel Creek, and,
and then it goes south,
It's called Willow Creek. Yeah,
yeah,
It goes down to the Chesapeake Bay.
yes,
Yep.
yes.
pretty much, looks
Mhm.
like.
It does.
Because that's,
Some of it would go that way, right?
well, that's the breaking point right up
That's the
there,
breaking point, yep.
between the Susquehanna and the St. Lawrence.
Anyway, what's your point?
Well, just where does where does ditch water become an intermittent stream, where it become a perennial stream? And it's just for my, and so I'm a little hesitant of the thicket that an intermittent stream could
On this
become.
map, it's a perennial stream, right? Or is it? It's a solid line or not?
It's kind of hashed line, and I can't tell if that's, you know,
Oh, I see what you
so
mean.
outline is a road, the hash line is
Yeah,
the intermittent.
It looks like in Jesse's yard, it's a
yeah,
intermittent stream.
yeah,
And then it becomes perennial when it crosses the street.
yeah.
Okay. Or something like that.
I find it easier to look at the FEMA map, floodplains map, to see the intermittent streams, to see where they
Yeah,
are.
those are nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean. Like looking at one going, I've never seen that dry, but maybe it does. I really looked at it every day, summer, so.
Yeah, and you know, what's missing is there's where my house is, and that's, you know, after it crosses Buffalo Road, then, you know, that's pretty much becomes that's always running through the whole here, and then it goes down
So anyway,
by old 76 road. So I just, you know, I don't, you know, there's this point where, you know, things are, I don't want us trying to quantitate things for things that are just kind of, you know, where it's definitely a
you're a
perennial stream, that's fine.
So you're recommending
Staying away from intermittent
staying
stream.
away from intermittent streams.
Just all together.
Yes,
Oh.
I don't know, I think we should keep 50. 50 foot.
Well, the
Or at least a
motion, the
20.
motion is what Cal is discussing,
What is it?
whether to
Right,
include intermittent streams.
okay. Mhm.
Can I give an example?
please.
So I live next door basically, to Bill DACA. And there is an area of land, it's all stone, used to have water in it. And it would wash their driveway out. And so we allowed them to come on, cut some trees and kind of reroute things, so that didn't happen. And that was years ago, and then we go back there now and again, and that has been bone dry for years. There has not been water back there forever,
Mhm.
in that section anyway. And it's pretty dry everywhere. So I went to the county, because it was like a deep ditch and I just wanted the lawn to look good. So I asked if we could put in, like sluice piping
Mhm.
and then fill in and make it this level to the road. And they said, you can't do that. In fact, we're coming out really digging a big ditch. And I'm like, but there hasn't been water in that ditch for years, and I mean years and years. I don't know that it's ever had water, I've been there 35 years. So, but certainly putting something, you have to have somewhere for water to go, if there ever was water. So instead, they dug it out and is now still bone dry and deeper and harder to maintain than it ever was, so. Probably should
So,
have just been quiet, but they would have dug it out anyway, they've been doing that every ditch work,
yeah.
type of thing, but. It's just. What used to be or what we think is gonna happen, it's for 35 years. It's been dry and there's huge overlay.
Mm.
But it's been dry forever, so I think. While you can't say for this property it's this, for that property it's that, I think some history. Needs to be looked at in certain areas.
I think though that, don't we have, isn't there a provision for that? So
The delineation,
the delineation, so like if you go,
that's for wetlands, I think.
no, I mean, I think. Hold on a
What page
second.
you on? What page you on?
A. Any applicant that believes their project site or building envelope is not within. The overlay district may provide to the review board a survey.
Yeah, that's a mapping thing.
That's a mapping, well, that's just saying, if this is a mapping thing, we've been looking at this going, wait, what about that, what about this?
Well,
I'm
here's-
looking at a
here's
creek
the
that I've
deal.
never seen dry.
Yeah.
That just says intermittent, so we have the opposite, right, so I'm just,
The challenge with intermittent streams is how they're mapped. And when they get mapped, how frequently they're mapped. I personally don't want to leave that burden up to the homeowner
Oh, yeah,
to have to prove that their land is either not or in an. I mean, that's the problem that I see with this in terms of, again, practical administration. So I mean, just a little bit torn what to do because. Practically, I can see the need to have buffers on the intermittent streams.
and we would provide maps for that, right?
If,
Just like,
yeah. Yeah. Mix everything together.
yeah,
I mean, things shift. I mean, this is, beavers, for example. I mean, things can change quickly with a water situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's good, pretty good to contemplate. On your intermittent streams and your perennials. You. Take your perennials and have a little wider buffer. Where your intermittent, you have like a 10 or 20 foot buffer. Where your perennials, you get 30 foot, because. There's not water in them all the time and
Right.
volumes are small, so you.
that's, yeah,
Instead of trying to differentiate, just make a small buffer, so it's not a big inconvenience.
right.
I think that makes sense.
Like 15 feet or something like that.
I'm thinking a stream that's got an 18-inch or 2 foot culvert under the road. Yeah, 15 feet, 20 feet is a buffer. One has got a 6-inch culvert or 12-inch culvert. You need 10 feet on either side. I mean. Common sense dictates, don't get too crazy.
Yeah,
I just know the intermittent stream I've been referring to, the cows walk down through it to get over to the pasture on the other side of it. Whatever that means.
yeah, that's fine.
They're no respecter of setbacks or buffers.
So what
It's allowed.
It's allowed use.
Yeah,
what I suggested in my email was 35 for
Mhm.
intermittent stream.
for intermittent. Yeah, I think that would make sense. I was
I think that would make sense too.
thinking 35. Okay,
So that's 70 feet.
Yeah, on either side, yeah.
side to side, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in their three zone concept from DEC, the closest they recommend at least 15 feet. That's why I was gonna throw out 15 or 20 feet, just on an intermittent stream.
For zone one.
Yeah, and that's what they recommend for zone one, and
Mhm.
you know, if we had just. I don't know, I think on an intermittent stream, something like. 15, 20 feet seems like it would be. And then nobody's gonna be complaining about losing too much land, anything. Cause then it
Okay,
would be
so-
a total width of.
I mean,
40
I'd
feet.
be comfortable with 20 on an intermittent stream, frankly.
20.
Either
Yeah,
side
yeah,
for a total
yeah.
of 40 feet.
Total of
Yeah.
40 feet.
Okay,
Because most intermittent streams.
so this is, so I call a vote on the original motion, which just is. Because it sounds like we've gone there, that we're gonna include intermittent streams
Yeah.
in some manner. So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so that one is unanimous.
And just to reiterate what Bill had said, that the delineated intermittent streams on this are not as detailed as the county would have us believe. If this was a county map, there would be more
Mhm.
intermittent streams mapped,
Right.
right,
And
Bill?
the reason that the zoning commission chose not to use that map, the county map, was to try to ease the burden a little bit and use the more regularly recognized intermittent streams.
That must be why the one isn't in front of my house.
Right, Bill? Bill, still ahead.
Yeah, he's muted.
Okay,
We
so,
don't let him.
yeah, so.
Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, right. And I did find, again, the definition for intermittent stream. So there was some discussion a while back, which is where when I raised my hand about not wanting to put the burden on the landowner, agreed. It's not up to the landowner to determine if it's an intermittent stream or not. So what the definition used in the zoning law is that it's shown. So I'll quote, a stream that flows only when it receives water from rainfall runoff or springs, or
Mhm.
from some surface source such as melting snow. So that's kind of but how do you know that this counts or not? And as mapped using the United States Geological Survey, National Hydrology Data Set, 2020.
Right, right.
So the definition of whether it counts in the zoning is that it's in that data set. And that takes the burden off the landowner. It puts it on an agreed upon
Right,
data. And yes, as Cal stated, it is, it will show fewer things in the county map.
Right.
okay. So, so let's see, so we have. There's a couple things going on here, so let's say,
We've agreed to intermittent streams, right?
Mhm. Yes. And
Now,
we,
do we have to agree on the width, or did we?
Yeah.
yeah, we have to
Yeah.
do that still. We have.
yeah, that's the one I'm setting up now, so. And we have the hamlets and the ag rural, right?
Well, I think we can just have one intermittent stream with.
Just do
uniform-
one thing for intermittent
Yeah,
streams,
yeah.
okay. And. From the previous discussion, we're suggesting 20 feet,
Mhm.
Each
Okay.
side.
okay? Okay,
Or just 20 feet, because that it gets counted on each side, so just.
No,
I guess I just want.
yeah, that's the way we've been
Yeah.
doing it, it's consistent in here,
Consistent.
so,
Yeah.
Buffer on each
just so
side,
that-
so it's-
Yeah.
so the buffer will be 20 feet.
okay. So let's see, who's making that motion, who wants to take it?
Oh, no,
You make it,
I'll take it. I'll
Okay,
take it.
and then a second
I'll second it,
by Tim. And are we ready for a vote?
yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Aye,
Aye.
great.
Yeah,
Unanimous?
that's right along. All right.
And now the nitty gritty is page 67 remaining. Which is 2.2.B.
Not
Which
yet.
is the development or disturbance in the inner buffer area. The language would now read in the buffer area.
Mhm.
Shall modify or interrupt more than 10% of the acreage within the area on that parcel unless necessary for the protection of human health, utility, public infrastructure, or betterment of the stream corridor. Development and uses in the inner buffer area are restricted to the following. And
Mhm.
this is what we're gonna have to,
Mhm.
activities part of any agricultural operation.
We have to say that, right?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
And I would like to change that wording to any agricultural or farm operation to match the definitions.
Oh, sure, sure.
Okay.
Okay.
The grandfathered benches or seating.
Benches are seating,
Education.
scientific research.
Before we go on, I want to ask a question. So under G1, G1 is except where allowed by the zoning law pursuant to section 5.3 G2-6 and Article 9, and for agricultural and or farm operations, no building shall be allowed within the buffer area. Is that language we want
Let
to
me see
have?
that.
It's on
Here's
page,
66.
last thing on 66.
Thanks for bringing that up.
And I modified it.
It doesn't
Just-
agree with the exceptions above. Here,
Where?
well, the B up here, exceptions when overlay covers more than 75% of the parcel. I
But that's an exception when
That's
that's.
an
Oh, right,
That's an
right,
exception.
right, okay. Yeah, it's not really what
So I think we need that.
to be changed.
No, I think as I read it, it should be, no building shall be allowed within the buffer
Within the
area.
Over the
buffer
buffer
area.
area.
Yeah.
Okay, then we can just take that out. Okay, hold on. Take that out then too, right?
And I would also,
Okay.
so G, the paragraph G
Mhm.
above that should be modified.
Yeah,
Streams and stream buffer areas, streams within the town of Caroline. I'm calling it the riparian buffer overlay district shall be protected by buffers as follows. Intermittent and riparian, or perennial and intermittent stream shall have a setback made up of a
buffer
buffer area.
area, or just have a setback buffer area.
Yeah,
right.
and then
Okay.
you can then cut the following and just go to the setback protects overall water quality by limiting blah and that.
So I think,
And
is
then
this where we want
I-
to put in then? That we have the hamlets of the buffer area. So perennial stream shall be
I-
set back of the buffer areas and then hamlets of,
Are you talking about the
No.
dimensions?
no, yeah.
I
Or is
think
that in a
that's
different place?
elsewhere.
That's
Okay,
elsewhere. That's
okay.
elsewhere.
All right,
This is just simplifying it instead of having inner and outer, we're just.
Exactly.
okay, yeah, right,
That's the
the
main
town's
thing.
required delineation of any,
Yeah,
Buffer area.
except where allowed by this zoning law pursuant to section 5.3, that's what we were just looking at, no, we were looking at, right. And Article 9, no buildings shall be allowed within the buffer area.
right. And then. Yeah, 2,
And of course, the B exceptions when overlay covers 75% mitigate that.
Up here, right, of a parcel,
Yes,
right.
yes.
So there was a question asked about this by someone from the privilege of the floor, saying, what if they say, well, this lot is like 100% in the overlay, so I'm gonna sell it off, right? And then that person can develop that 25% of something. If you follow me, it's a little complicated. It's like a 2 or 3 step thing there.
If the overlay covers 75% of the parcel,
Mhm. Then they would be able to
they
build
would be
on
able to build
on 25% of it.
that.
Right.
Okay,
Right,
Simple, regardless of whether somebody sells it or not. That doesn't
Okay.
matter.
right. So,
okay.
so then at the top of page 67, it would be buffer
Buffer area.
area. The function of the buffer
Buffer
area
area.
is to protect the physical and ecological integrity of the stream through protection and enhancement of native vegetation. So I cut out a few of the words there to simplify it. And then I left the rest alone.
Okay,
I'm sorry, where?
What's that?
on the top of 67.
This is,
Top of 67.
yeah, number 2,
Yeah.
buffer area.
Inner buffer area.
Yes, I crossed off inner, just buffer area. The function of the buffer area is to protect the physical and ecological integrity of the stream through
Mhm.
protection and enhancement of the native vegetation. So I cut out a few words there. But the rest of the paragraph holds. The buffer area will begin at the top of the stream bank and extend a minimum of 50 feet.
That's 75 feet now.
But yeah, that's, so
75 feet in the hamlets.
the buffer area will begin at the top of the stream bank and extend a minimum of, it would be, yeah, we're gonna have to make language for the,
So can I
So this
just
is gonna
point
be
out
hamlet.
something to you all
yeah.
that's become complicated
Mm-hmm.
by making this 75 feet? Then if you go to 3B on page 69,
Mm-hmm,
which had been in the outer buffer area, the initial inner buffer area is 50 feet. The outer buffer area allows things like picnic tables,
Right.
decks,
that's what I was saying.
fences, landscaping.
That's what I was saying at the beginning, was that's why I was supporting the outer buffer area. Because it had some more flexibility in what you could do.
So I'm just going back to my original point that if we just had one buffer area
But we have one buffer area
and
now.
it was 50 feet, then you could do all of this other stuff without having to get anything to do for it. That's all.
Without having to get,
Permits and or
Hmm.
seek appeals or whatever.
huh,
That's just what I wasn't
Yeah.
clear. That's what I had in my mind. Because what we've just done is
Mhm.
we have just
Widen,
widened the
Right.
sacrosanct.
right, that's
area.
why I wanted the,
why?
both of them,
Mm,
but I compromised for you.
No, so,
Because, yeah, because the one inner 50, right? Had this, and the one outer allowed picnic tables and concrete slab, put the picnic table on and some other things, right?
well, my
Fences.
suggestion was to add those to 2B, to amalgamate those,
To allow those in the inner,
yeah,
okay,
just to allow those.
minor
To
recreational
allow them in
structures,
the
yeah,
buffer area.
all right.
That's fine by me.
Fences,
On
okay.
page 67.
Yes,
Mhm,
page 69. So
Okay.
add B,
mhm.
what was 3B? To 2B, right?
Right,
Say that
right,
again?
so you can take A out,
Add what was
3A.
3B to 2B.
right,
Correct,
so add
That's
these
what I-
bullets
yeah,
to this. Right,
and just eliminate the first bullet because you're adding it
Eliminate
anyway.
the first bullet.
Yeah.
mhm,
You eliminate no more than 10% of the outer buffer area. Or you leave it in, occupy no more than 10% of the buffer area.
Right.
Just leave that in, occupy no
just
more than
take out
10% of the
of the
buffer
buffer area.
area.
fences,
Fences,
do not impede floodwaters.
floodwaters.
Right,
landscaping that does not encroach upon the impact or impact the integrity of the buffer area.
Yeah. Well, we're supposed to be on number 2 over here on the top of page 67. It talks about native vegetation, shade, leaf litter, woody debris, erosion protection. And if you look at the pictures of the inner one, pictures, there we go. Lots of tree cover here compared to your outer buffer zone. All right, so I'm just saying that
Well,
that's something we lose
yeah, we
without
have-
having that outer
we have
buffer and the vegetation.
on page 68,
Mhm.
we have best management practices for water quality.
Okay,
That it may not compromise the integrity of the stream bank
Yeah.
or negatively impact the function of the buffer areas.
okay,
This says tree cutting within 25 feet of the top of the stream bank is prohibited.
okay,
So that's something,
okay, that's already in there.
So
But that would be going to 100 feet now. No, just
No,
25 feet out of,
25 feet.
okay, got it. I got it.
so the
right.
protection that you're talking about is
Mhm.
built
It's
into
still in
that
there.
language.
yep,
Makes me happy.
any such activity must
All right.
retain a minimum of 50% of the tree canopy in the buffer.
Okay.
Something I would like to
So we
question
could.
and not take out
Mhm.
under 2B is the last bullet point of 2B. Where I would like to tweak it.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, so the last.
I'm very
2B.
uncomfortable with the forest stewardship plan prepared by the Department of EDC.
DEC,
Or a forester who's certified. For somebody to do some tree maintenance that falls within the
right,
parameters of what's laid out in this.
right. So if you've got dead trees or,
In this thing,
Yeah.
I think that's just way over.
okay, we already have that, right? In the best managed practices,
Yeah.
tree cutting. And.
Al, what do you think?
I'm just kind of chewing on the tree cutting within 25 feet of the top of the stream bank, just.
What do you think?
Well, somebody wants to build with. It could be a tree that's leaning way back and. I mean, tree roots stabilize and hold soil and banks and,
Yeah,
but if somebody.
well, it doesn't say can't. Well, I guess it does say that
does.
within 25 feet. I was thinking negatively impact the function of the buffer area. Cutting within 25 feet of the top of stream bank. It's prohibited. Yeah, that's,
I actually had that underlined as a question mark
Me too.
myself,
Had it too.
so I would be.
yeah, I
happy
mean,
just
I've
to
got,
take it
I've
out.
got some dead trees. Right along the creek right now, some ash trees. I mean, I'm like that.
I mean, I think
That's what
the
we're
issue
looking
is,
at,
the
so-
issue is the tree canopy, so keep the tree canopy.
Right.
There. And take,
And trees shade keeps streams cool and it's all sorts of.
Right.
It's just a natural, but just
Right.
if a tree needs to go or needs, I don't like a prohibition on somebody.
now, and a lot of the tree canopy could end up being caused by trees that are
They must.
30 feet out
Yeah.
and grow in.
They
Right,
must,
So I
any
just-
such
I'd
activity
take
must
that out.
retain a minimum of 50%. I mean, the only thing I'm thinking is, down the road from me, someone went and cut down. All these sycamores, and left no trees basically
Well,
there.
that's eliminating the
That-
tree canopy.
Right, exactly, yeah.
I mean, you can get tree canopy in a lot of different ways.
well, clear cuts right after they're done look like horrid, but sometimes that is a best management practice. Not a huge mountainside clear cut, but.
Well,
I mean, we could add a bullet under 2B. To say that, whatever selective removal of trees is allowed or whatever.
Right,
Whatever degree, however,
well, we
I
could,
don't
or
see
we could,
anything like that there.
we could take out the tree cutting within 25 feet of the top of the stream bank is prohibited.
Mhm.
But we could say tree covering must retain
Yeah.
a minimum of 50% of the tree canopy.
Right.
Mhm.
So we take out,
But maybe,
that-
maybe you can't do that. I
That's
mean,
what I would recommend.
it just,
What are you saying, Kel?
oh,
but maybe you can't maintain, I don't know. I
Maybe you
just-
can't maintain
I
50%?
don't- Right, I don't like cutting trees, but sometimes they have to go.
If you cut
What if-
5 trees.
what if we say-
Bad, and you've only got 7 there.
What if we say?
That's what I'm getting at.
What if we say, any tree cutting should aim to retain a 50% canopy?
I would keep it must myself,
mhm, I
I'd
would
be
say
for-
must
I
do.
could go along, with Tim, strike prohibited.
so strike. That's whole sentence, right?
Sure, yeah, well, I would say tree cutting
I think everybody's saying that.
must,
Tree cutting.
Must retain a minimum.
50% of the tree canopy
Right.
in the buffer area.
yeah,
Becky?
What happens in the case, let's say they ever go to ask for killing ash trees all over.
right, that's what I was
Left
just,
and
but then
right,
that wouldn't be
so-
canopy anymore.
That's why I was thinking of putting a bullet in that said, something like
But that would,
selective or targeted
Yeah.
removal of diseased trees is permitted or something like that.
yeah,
So,
I mean, it's also. Yeah. The tree canopy with the dead trees,
Once a tree dies, it's not canopy anymore.
that's what I'm
Not
thinking, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean.
Right.
yeah.
Any and all dead trees would be.
Not canopy.
in
Not
the
canopy, right.
That's right.
That would be a
Not
canopy point. It's 5 trees. that you-
No
And the
leaves.
canopy changes, the canopy would
Right.
then change, what the canopy was would change. So I think we just. it's
Or, I
okay.
mean, or, yeah, I'm fine with putting a bullet in like you were talking to, just
you're fine with what?
I mean,
putting a bullet in like you were talking
you
about.
put a bullet in regarding,
So something like,
ecological maintenance or whatever the term would be.
I
Well,
will,
actually-
I will
we
look for
actually-
some language and
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
decide tonight.
We actually, it does talk about,
I saw some, I think in the town of Ulysses that was like that, so.
yeah, where was that bit about plants? I mean, we've got the native vegetation, provide shade, leaf litter, right? Areas to protect the physical and ecological. quality.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So. Yeah. All right,
so let's see, so there was a motion. I guess I should be trying to keep track of motions for clarity, so. Remove 25-foot sentence
Correct.
and. Yes. Was that a second, Cal?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Yeah.
Cal, all in favor of that?
which is,
Aye.
the 25 feet.
The 25 feet sentence,
Aye.
that's unanimous, okay.
yeah,
And then the next motion is to add.
Allowing of,
Bullet point,
no, the next motion would be to eliminate. Within the inner buffer area, limited tree cutting, forestry management should be done in accordance with the forest
Oh, yeah.
stewardship plan.
okay.
mhm, yeah,
This
take
is-
that out.
Eliminate all of that up
Eliminate
to tree cutting. Next page. Then we keep tree cutting may not compromise the integrity of the. stream
Up to
bank.
best management. Practices
Oh, all the way
Yeah.
up.
for water quality, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
last, well, so does anybody want to second Tim's motion?
I kind of like, wait, before we do that, I like the sentence, the tree cutting may not compromise the integrity of the stream bank or negatively impact the
So
function.
we're gonna keep that.
We're gonna keep that sentence. Okay, good. Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
that's all in there. So
Okay.
all we're working on is that last bullet. Do we have a,
Well,
Right.
that's,
do I have a
that's in
second?
that last bullet. Yes, I will. second
Okay,
it. It's right here.
and
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we need a new figure 1 here.
Well, we can deal with
Okay.
that later.
Okay.
Figures don't matter. I mean, really, that's just a lot.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
I'll offer a motion. Add provision for removal of dead, diseased, or falling trees or something like that.
Mhm.
That was when you cut-
Colin.
Hmm?
Huh?
That's what happens when you cut them. They small. Sorry.
Damaged.
Oh, good, or,
This huge branch, I was camping this weekend with Boy Scouts, a huge branch came down in the middle of the night, like 200 feet from the fence. Wow.
So we have that. Do we need to make a motion?
It was.
that was a
And the next
motion
morning.
that by me. Did
I'll
I get a second?
it. Second.
By Tim? So that was all in favor of that?
That's the bullet point. Yes.
That's a bullet point.
Aye. Yes.
You okay with that, Cal?
Yep.
Okay.
Now, just to clarify, because above that bullet point, we are saying, instead of, we're not saying tree cutting within 25 feet is prohibited, we're saying tree cutting must retain at a minimum 50% of the tree canopy.
Should strive to,
Well, that's a question then. So
yeah,
we have a motion removing the 25-foot,
correct.
Right.
but that wasn't. And I did put the sentence, but it's a 25-foot.
The rest of that staying in that, the integrity sentence.
Yeah.
Tree
Okay,
cutting.
I like the integrity sentence.
Yeah.
So do we want, so tree cutting. Do we want to just make it, have that sentence, tree cutting must retain a minimum of 50% of the tree canopy in the buffer area at all times, or?
I like to give some leeway to just should strive to or something like that, just that. I don't know, maybe things need to be just yes or no, but
Right,
I just like that,
I'm trying to make it yes or no.
yeah. And I'm just trying to give some leeway to,
Then I would make it should instead of must.
Mhm.
Should.
You okay with that?
yep,
That'd be better.
Should.
Okay,
We are editing, okay. That motion is by whom?
Tim,
By Tim?
Yep.
Or who wants to second that?
I'll second it.
Cal? And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Pretty agreeable tonight.
Yep. So this, the next thing is then section 3 is gone.
Yeah, didn't we remove that already?
Yeah,
Did we?
the whole section 3 would be gone. I don't know if we actually said it.
Okay,
yeah, because we moved over
Yeah,
we're moving these bullets, the minor recreational structures, the fences and the landscaping. Although the landscaping, I'm kind of like the decorative planting. I don't like that because that gets in the way of the
but it doesn't.
native plants and the stuff that we want to have a natural.
But it shouldn't encroach upon or impact the integrity of the buffer area. Right?
right.
Decorative plantings,
You want to take out
Three.
decorative and just leave planting
Yeah.
because we've allowed.
yeah,
plantings.
let's take out decorative,
Take out
fine,
decorative,
okay,
we've allowed plantings.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to keep track of all of this. Let's
Oh,
see.
sorry.
Where's that 69? And
that's just the last bullet point that we added. Or to 2B from 3B.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't think we have did we make an official motion to add that to two?
I don't think we
I
did.
don't think
We just talked through
We
it,
talked
right?
through it, right?
I will make a motion to add 2B to move. What is in this draft 3B? To add it to 2B.
Okay. I'll second that. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous? Okay. And let's see. Remove decorative. I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
Okay.
Kim? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. A lot of tiny motions. Okay. Are we done?
4,
Or,
it has to read in the buffer area.
storage
Following
replacement.
activities are prohibited in the buffer area.
What about B?
That's a problem.
That's a problem.
So. Wait a minute here. So what did you say, Tim, for four?
The following
For
activities.
six?
Four B.
Four B.
4, the following activities are prohibited in the buffer area. Okay, that should be the language. For what is 4? That's all we're talking about right now. The following activities are prohibited in the buffer area. Do you see that, Mark?
Yeah, so I just changed it to buffer area, right?
Mm-hmm.
I took that as sort of a global change.
Right.
So,
Okay.
okay,
For B, which is sewage systems, I would say we want to make an exception with the exception of systems approved by the Tompkins County Health Department. In other
Well,
words,
this is replacement of existing septic dry wells.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody needs to replace it, if they don't have any room, to put it somewhere else.
Right.
They should be able to,
Replace it. Yeah.
right,
it's kind of a modified grandfather.
yeah.
Is the way I see it.
and so how do you propose to change the language? So,
I'll let somebody that's better at English figure that out.
So installation of sewage systems, drain fields, and replacement of existing septic or sewage pit. With the exception of those approved by the Public Health Department, or the Tompkins County Health Department,
Or permitted by.
or permitted by.
so that would be basically just allowing them, right? And I mean, I'm just asking the question.
Yeah.
So. I mean, almost all sewage systems that are installed
So the
are
issue-
approved by
So the
the,
issue is the replacement of.
I can think of
What the hell somebody's supposed to do?
Right, exactly.
I can think of somebody that's along Valley Road that's right near the creek that might have their septic system out behind their house and.
no, I totally
Yeah.
get that. I
And then,
totally
yeah,
get
and it's
that.
raised and their
So,
house would be worthless. Or
Simple
my
way to
house.
do this is no new construction can be in the
Yeah.
buffer area. Any replacement may be with the allowance of the health department.
I mean, do we need that in there at all?
right, that's what I'm wondering.
Well, maybe we don't.
I mean, I've got another question with the sewage system. Okay, this
Well,
is,
we
this
definitely-
is way in the future.
Just wait,
Okay,
let's just focus on this. So wait, you're
All
still on that topic though, right?
I am.
We definitely don't want prohibited
No,
in there,
No,
I don't think.
well, fine, I mean, it doesn't,
So,
we have to be able to replace them. That doesn't make any sense.
I would think, unless the leach field's draining into 6 Mile Creek,
Um,
but if the leach field's working well, then it's fine.
well, if the leach field was flowing into 6 Miles Creek, then the health department is gonna approve the
Right,
replacement.
right.
Right, but then
Right.
you've got to fix it, right? I mean, so that's, you have to be able to,
But they, you know, they might
Replace
say,
it.
well, here's a design system that will work, you know, within,
Right.
next to the creek, or some sort of sand filter with a special,
Right.
whatever. Just-
Mhm. Because there are people really close to the creek that have a special one with a special pump that goes
Right,
up in minutes.
Right.
Oh,
So then I mean, it just makes me wonder about B entirely.
They might be right there.
can we take it out?
Yeah. Take anything out.
I mean, A is a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm. And hazardous material is defined somewhere, I take it.
So, yeah, so,
I mean, somewhere we want to say,
are we taking that one out?
somewhere we want to say that. Installation of sewage systems, both drain fields and raised systems. Are discouraged within the
Mm-hmm.
period of construction, and we want to say that, but we can say that under
Mm,
to be bullet point. I mean, if somebody's building a new house, we want them to have to think hard about where they're gonna put their septic system.
right. Well, that's a new septic system,
Right.
not an existing.
No, that's why existing, I think you just take that out.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Okay.
you can count on the county health department to mitigate
yeah,
damage for that. They're not gonna approve any old thing.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if this. Would kick in the 75% rule, so yeah, now I'm arguing with myself to keep it in there, so.
Last time I knew, you couldn't build a septic within 75 feet of creek.
Anyway,
Right, 100 feet,
probably
Well,
can, and probably can.
It's a
yeah,
DVC rule
Right,
or something, because my parents were looking to put a house one place, and it was 75 feet, you can't get anywhere near it,
Right,
Yeah.
right.
so
I think so.
it's almost a mute point.
Probably just take it out.
Almost moot, but
yeah,
if it's true, it makes sense to have it in there. I don't know.
Well, the reason to have it in there is for the spirit of the law.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
well, I say we leave it in for now. And then,
Well, I don't want to leave the replacement in. I don't want to prohibit replacement of existing dry wells or seepage pits.
Right.
okay.
I mean, you're gonna make somebody move out of their house.
Mhm.
Right,
That would have to be negotiated with.
But
the health
what
department
if-
Anyway,
They're replacing it, I mean, I guess it's true, most time you replace it, you'd look for a new spot, right?
Where
Not
there might
in my
where there
house.
might not be a spot.
there's no spot, there's one
Yeah.
place for a
Be
septic,
the same spot.
There's no spot.
it's gotta be the same
Yeah,
place.
okay,
They just dig the hole deep and
Yeah.
fill it with different material.
yeah.
In the hamlets, there's no choice.
Mhm.
And probably 75% of the hamlets.
Okay,
But with your new construction, you can limit where they can, how close they can go with it.
Mhm.
Because it's not been built yet, it's not been
Right.
sold yet, which is fine. Leave the rest of the health department to deal with.
okay. So it's almost 7 o'clock,
So what did we decide to do?
so. So we just leave it at installation of sewage systems. Both drain fields and raised systems, period.
Installation of new sewage systems.
I think
I
it's
just
kind
don't
of,
know if we can prohibit that.
I'm kind of with Matt, I think it's already moot point.
So don't even put it in,
I think it's a law somewhere. Pretty sure it is.
Well, for
They
now,
wanna check into it.
I would suggest
We can
that
change
we
it
leave
later.
it. I'd just suggest that for now,
suggest what,
we say installation of sewage systems.
period.
both drain fields and raised systems, period.
Okay, that's what I got.
And if with further research, we find that that's either
Yeah,
You'll
I would like
advise
to
ill
use sewage
advised or
system, but
whatever,
let's
then, you know,
look into that, the big question mark. Would this place be a place to put in the,
I'll second that motion.
oh, I'm sorry,
All in favor?
aye,
Thank you. You in there, Cal?
Yep,
Okay.
Yeah. sorry.
Okay.
uh,
Are we done?
then 6,
6 just gets renumbered to 4.
5, we've got, so I'm gonna look at 5, sorry, this is back to my thing. I was
5 is
gonna show.
eliminated.
5 is eliminated?
right,
Yeah.
Okay, then where can we put in not paving roads and parking lots in the buffer areas?
So I put parking lots and was connected to ABCD. I made that D.
Hold on,
So maybe I didn't explain this.
where did you put it?
I just added it under
2D.
3.
2D or 3D.
Where?
Well, here on page 69
Yeah,
for it's originally numbered for D. I added a
Okay.
D. So put
okay.
parking lots except in
see.
connection with ag and farm operations.
Okay, I want to be really clear that existing parking lots and existing like gravel roads, so existing gravel parking lots, existing gravel roads that are
Yeah.
pervious material do not become impervious and paved over in the buffer
In the
area.
Buffer area.
I want to be really clear that even if you're grandfathered in, you're grandfathered in as a pervious
So
parking lot.
can we just add paved to the beginning of that sentence? Paved parking or parking lots except, but we wouldn't want other kinds of parking lots either, right?
Right, but I don't want someone saying that, yes, I agree, we don't want parking
Well, they
lots
could
put
be
in,
grandfathered.
but they could be grandfathered in. And then they could want to pave them because
I
then they
understand
don't
what
plow
you're
them this
saying.
year.
So it could be a gravel parking lot within 75 feet of the,
Right,
So Brooklyn's market could never pay.
that's
Right.
probably the community
Well,
center as well.
Those markets, where are they? Maybe not, maybe not.
But, or if somebody has, as I said, has, or if there's I don't think we've got a private driveway or road that runs along the creek, for example, for that to get paved.
Well, there you do, I mean, there are many residences.
Right.
Thinking of that have driveways along the creek, sure, of course.
Right, or Old Mill Street that got given back to Frank Eggleston,
So
so,
I just wanna, so add an E. That's
E,
gravel surfaces
well-
may not be paved.
pervious surfaces, such as parking,
extant,
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 good word, yes, right? May not be made impervious,
Okay,
i.e. paved. So.
extant. Previous surfaces,
pervious,
Must
extant
be
pervious
paved.
surfaces may not be made impervious.
right?
Sounds great.
Motion by Kate. Second. Anybody want to second that?
Second,
Tim, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
I think
Okay.
we have to work on 6.
We do. So
Okay,
I crossed out after following, just activity will not result in any of the following. Period. Further applicants for new construction. Blah, blah, blah.
I guess what I'm worried about is furnish sufficient data
What?
on
Okay.
C.
See,
what does sufficient
What
data?
does sufficient data mean?
To demonstrate. Alteration of aquifer capacities, reduction of flood carrying capacities.
Where are you?
Flooding.
What? Are you saying data? There,
I'm
Right.
saying. What C is doing, is it's telling applicants for building permits. Et cetera, that they have to furnish sufficient data to demonstrate. Their activity will not do any of these things, such as. Deterioration of water quality, such as. Significant disturbance to fish and wildlife populations and natural plant communities. I mean, how is somebody supposed to do that?
so the sentence says further applicants for new construction projects disturbing one or more shall disturbing. Oh, yeah, so,
Disturbing what?
one or more ABC, alteration of.
Okay, one or more below, okay.
I would prefer to read applicants, blah, blah, blah. Shall demonstrate that. Shall demonstrate strategies for mitigating this. In other words, I just don't think I don't want to ask people to try to prove with data. Now they're not going to disturb wildlife and natural plant communities. So like virtually impossible.
Yeah,
I get the ideal, but I don't see the practicality of this in terms of.
Is this talking about streams and water quality, or is it talking about just land in general?
No, it's.
Just talking about water quality.
It's water quality,
They're out of the buffer area, they can't do it anyway.
right? Well, we don't need to, this is something I'd like to return to.
okay, yeah, because
because
Okay.
it just
I'm running
needs
out of
to-
energy.
So we'll return, I think it's 7 o'clock and we should adjourn,
So what I
so.
recommend. That we do the next time we turn to this is. Go to Article 3, which are districts. Map and purposes.
Okay. Okay,
What are we going to?
The
Article
district.
3?
Article 3.
people have questions about the district.
And then we would move from Article 3 directly into Article 4. Let's say Article 3 didn't end up taking us that long, then we go to Article 4. Okay.
How many articles are there again?
I think. No, well, there are 14, but a lot of those some of those are pro forma.
That hazardous materials has a nice definition.
I was wondering
Good,
if
good.
we want to do the ag definitions.
Well, I would just wait to do the definitions until we have a list of definitions that we might want to consider, you know what I mean?
Okay, I was thinking,
Scotching back and forth.
okay, that's fine.
What I recommend that we do is maintain a list of definitions we would want to return to,
Oh, I see, and then go through.
and then retroactively hit those.
Yeah.
It'll be clear to us.
Great, okay. I'd like to,
What about, before we proceed anymore, the ownership of the board?
Could we have an executive session on that or?
what was that, Kelly?
Before we proceed with any more meetings on this, what about the makeup of the board?
Oh,
Could
have
we
to do
have
that.
an executive session about that real quick? Or-
Yeah.
I got
So-
two things I'd like to bring up.
I did want to mention that tonight. I meant to mention at the beginning of the meeting, but I will mention it now. That Catherine Goldberg has resigned her position on the board. I very much regret to say and sorry to lose her. And so the board will be moving forward, we will be moving forward to appoint someone, so we'll be
By fine procedures at our next meeting, right?
yeah, put something forward and put an announcement out and have people who are interested, send something in, so. But I did want to mention that tonight.
Thanks, Cal.
Yeah.
Should we be moving? I think we should. This should be on hold until we're back to a full board.
What should be on hold?
Are moving forward with this, I think we should have. Be back to a full board of 5.
I think we should keep working.
We're not taking a vote on the law,
Okay.
just working on the language.
So, and I actually, so we have a board meeting next week on Wednesday. So, is the idea to dedicate a part of that meeting to what we said tonight, like an hour or something?
You mean for what? You're not clear, Mark, but
For our next zoning discussion to be in that meeting.
do we have latitude in the board meeting?
I can't think of anything else going on, but it always,
Well, I'd be happy to do that if we had
Yeah.
room.
Okay, if there's room, I'll put it on the agenda for
Are
another.
we going to have regular meetings at this time every other week?
I don't think we should. So, this is, I was gonna see if, people are open to another kind.
But regular meetings, just outside of the board, yeah.
Right,
Okay.
for these kinds of meetings. So, would people be able to meet in the morning hours? Say, no, not at all.
Work.
Okay, that's, so, yeah.
So we don't have a meeting next week, or we do?
We have a regular board
Yeah.
meeting on Wednesday.
No,
That's May 31st.
that's May 31st.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so we don't have a meeting next week.
Right.
Yeah.
So we don't know what to do with ourselves on Wednesdays, right?
But I mean, we could meet, we could schedule a meeting, but I think,
Is your concern the?
Excuse me. Would you be on the signs?
Oh, sure. There we go. Well, the
You don't want to
supervisor.
take it for a couple of.
Hope you're entertained.
It's a lot goes into it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Wednesday's the 31st.
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Hey, Mark, you're muted. The town hall mic just got muted.
I'm living on cough drops.
What about Wednesday?
Thank you. Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself and I muted, I muted your mic instead.
Okay.
I just wanted to add in the conversation about upcoming meetings, and my problem is the 5 to 7 o'clock hour.
Yeah.
And
Terrible.
that's a terrible time for me, and I just would ask that it not be between 5 and 7.
Okay,
Yeah,
That's
thank you.
reasonable.
yep,
What could we do next Wednesday since we don't have a board meeting?
yeah, that makes sense.
I would like to not do next Wednesday because I have another thing.
Okay,
Yeah, I would like to not do it next Wednesday
Okay.
too.
Is I mean, I'd be,
Kate and Tim can get together and.
and I'm just trying to recall what we discussed our Monday evenings off the table. I just can't remember what we discussed.
they're not off the table for me. Mondays or Thursdays. Is Monday or Thursday okay?
Monday's Memorial Day holiday.
Oh, yeah,
We've
that's
got-
off the table.
We've got some company coming.
Yeah,
Well, maybe we're just not gonna be able to meet,
possibly.
Yeah.
Is Thursday no good?
this coming Thursday,
No, not this coming Thursday.
You mean the first
It's
of
like in
June?
2 days, no.
9 days.
the first
Yeah.
of June, I could do it on Thursday.
I think, yeah,
Well, I'm coming around to realizing that, we need to meet at 7 PM
Yeah,
or later.
okay,
So,
7 on Thursday.
do you want to meet like at 10 o'clock? No, okay, 7 PM.
11, let's do 11.
First of June, yeah, so,
Excellent.
2 weeks and 2 days.
no,
This is
1
June
week
1st.
and 2
1 week
days.
and 2 days.
1 week and 2 days. Yes.
Great. Thanks for those reminders and everything. So, have we covered the basis? So we're gonna meet next
Thursday.
Thursday. We have a game plan.
Okay,
Remind me what the process is for replacing. We got somebody on the board,
We just interview and select
People.
someone. Yeah,
put in there,
put an announcement, yeah.
put out an announcement.
it's a board appointment, and
Yeah.
yeah, I think the way I would recommend doing it is, I mean, I think we should put out an announcement, ask people to send. A letter of interest, and describe, why they want to serve, what their priorities are, and what they understand the position to be. Maybe a resume with that. What do you think?
No, I just needed to be reminded of
Yeah,
what the
that's what we've done
protocols
before.
were. I mean, yeah, I knew we appointed somebody and.
Catherine was appointed, right?
Hmm?
Was Catherine appointed? I'm trying to.
Yeah, and
remember.
then she got elected.
Right,
Weren't you back in the day?
No, I ran for a 1-year
Oh,
position.
okay.
mhm.
I was never appointed. Nobody would have appointed me.
That's not true. So,
Usually we have a good turnout for appointments, but not so much turnouts for elections. That's been my experience. People don't like running an election.
Well, we've got an election coming up,
Yeah.
so,
and it's just, so everybody knows, it's the appointment is for the remainder of the year.
Till January 1st.
Yes,
Right,
right,
So that there would now be supervisor and 3 board members up for
correct.
election.
that's correct.
And the
this
highway
coming-
superintendent.
You could be all by yourself
Justice.
next January.
and my understanding
Mm-hmm.
is the procedure is for this particular position. Catherine was a Democrat. I believe that the Democratic committee appoints someone to run for that remaining term. But we have to clarify
I
that.
guess so,
We have
yeah,
to clarify
But a
that.
Republican could run too, I mean,
In a general
Republicans
election.
could run.
Right.
right.
right,
Right.
Are there any requirements for number of days? I mean, if we could, I'd like to see us move this along.
I think it's 45 days we have 45 days to appoint someone.
Okay,
Yeah.
Are you sure? I don't think that's true.
Oh.
So,
I read that too.
I think
But
I read
we'll
that.
have to clarify that.
okay, we can clarify that.
Everything will be clarified within the next
It's
2
not
days.
so,
This happened really out of nowhere, so.
yeah, I think
Right.
we should give people a chance to put in
Yeah,
their
we
letters
should.
and things like that, so.
yeah, I'd really like to see us get back up to, and then there's just the thing too of tie votes.
we did okay tonight.
Oh, yeah, I know. And, but I just think, I'd like to see us get back and,
Tie votes, if we have a tie vote about this kind of language, we
Tie
can go
votes
more,
and-
figure it out.
yeah,
That's right. So, it's getting late. It's gonna.
Yep.
It is.
Is it okay to adjourn?
Yes.
I'd
and then,
like to.
I had an offer from a solar development company to buy a bunch of
Okay.
land.
Can we talk about this later?
No, I just wanted to, let people know what's going on.
It's not on the agenda. So-
Okay, that's, no, protocol, I'm sorry.
Okay, I mean, I
Just tired.
I want to respect.
Yeah, nothing to talk, I just wanted, kind of out
So-
there that the solar developers are.
If it's something for us to consider, we can put it on the agenda for the business
It's not
meeting.
something that just, but I think it's something we should
Okay,
should
so,
all know about, that they're,
but this meeting was a
Adjourn.
meeting for the zoning law, and I do want to adjourn and respect Jesse and everyone else. So
Yep.
I'll offer a motion to adjourn.
Second.
second.
Second by Tim, he beat, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
So-
Just put my scout mask. saying,
Because we
yeah,
are
that'll be-
talking about land use.
Yeah, but.
That's why we have a
You're right.
solar